Today we are covering the Memento build. We're gonna cover all the ways you can build this gun, whether weak spot or crit. You can use it for PvP and you will melt tanky bosses with ease. We're gonna talk about how this gun works. First of all, let's right click on the gun, click details here, and click X on I keyword. Fast gunner, this is what the gun utilizes. The gun gives you a fast gunner buff once you trigger it, and we'll get into that later how it gets triggered. By triggering this fast gunner buff, you will get a continuous buff, and while the skill is in effect, each stack will grant you fire rate plus 1% and attack plus 1%. And attack is a new multiplier that increases your gun's damage. So now you know what is fast gunner and what it does. With this gun, when you hit targets, you will have a 45% chance to trigger Fast Gunner. And whenever you shoot the weak spot, it gets increased to 80%. When Fast Gunner is triggered, you will get one bullet reloaded to your magazine. If you take a look above my health bar, as I shoot, a icon appears, and that means that we have triggered a Fast Gunner. Whenever you trigger Fast Gunner, you will see that icon pop up. And if I keep shooting, it will stack maximum up till 5. Keep in mind that the default and highest stacks is 5. As you can see, if I keep triggering it, I get ammunition back in my gun. Each shot has 50% chance to consume one additional bullet, and you will get additional 100% attack. That means your damage will be doubled, and you will see sudden spikes in your damage. For example, 7,700 right now, and now it's 4,300. Now the last one, it says if the shot misses, the next reload loads 1 extra bullets, up to 5 bullets. That has been added in a recent patch around a month ago, and unfortunately this doesn't work, or it doesn't do anything. It's most likely bugged, or it's most likely wrongly translated. Because if you miss a target, well, you don't get any bullets back, nor you don't load extra bullets in the magazine. That's basically it for the weapon itself. Now let's go to the mods, and I'm gonna talk about weak spot, crit, and other builds, what armor pieces you should use, what food buffs you should use, what to prioritize, and the deviations you need to have for this gun. The link for the sheet will be free in the description. You can find it there, as well as if you want to find extra 50+ builds for PVE and PvP, it will be in my Patreon. The link is in the description as well. I'm very grateful for those who support me on Patreon. Now let's start off with the weak spot build. This gun is of course amazing for weak spot because if you hit in the weak spot, you gain and reload bullets. So let's start off with the mod that we use for the gun itself, Precision Rush. Now there are multiple mods that you can use. The highest damage that you will do with this gun is with Precision Rush if you hit in the weak spots. Because Precision Rush, what it does is it gives you 45% weak spot damage as soon as you trigger Fast Gunner, which means as soon as you fire your first bullet, boom, you get that damage increase, and it lasts forever if you keep shooting. This is the best mod for a weak spot build and even for a crit build if you're doing a hybrid build. Of course, there are other options like Shooting Blitz, which you can use, which will give you Fast Gunner duration plus 4 seconds. And this is when, if you prefer to not lose your Fast Gunner stacks when reloading your gun, or if you are accidentally reloading your gun, sometimes the gun will start reloading, and by the time you finish the reload, your Fast Gunner stacks will disappear, which means you will lose your fire rate. So in that case, if you don't like Precision Rush, you can also stick with Shooting Blitz. It's all personal preference though. Shootout is definitely not the mod you want to run for Memento, so let's ignore this. It's mostly for Predator. Cowboy is another very good mod. The only downside is that you need to reload your weapon after shooting, and it has to be empty. You cannot reload on like 4 or 3 bullets. So after you do the reload when the mag is empty, your Fast Gunner trigger chance is plus 100% based on weapon's trigger chance. What that means is our trigger chance is 45%, so it will be 90% if you shoot in the body. And if you shoot in the head, well, it's going to be 160%. Because shooting in the head, the base chance is 80%. As you can see, I have 5 bullets, so we need to empty our mag. As soon as I empty my mag, now when I shoot in the body, you can see that we're almost every time reloading our gun, even if we shoot in the body. Now let's shoot in the head. As you can see, I will never, ever run out of ammunition. So it's between Precision Rush for melting bosses super quick, Shooting Blitz, or Cowboy. Now for the helmet mod, we are choosing Momentum Up. It basically gives you fire rate 10% whenever you are full mag, and once you reach the half of the mag, you will get 30% weapon damage. So 50% of the bullets is fire rate, 50% of the bullets is weapon damage. You might be wondering which one is better, Momentum Up or Precise Strike. It all depends what you're doing, really. In some cases, Precise Strike might be better. In some cases, Momentum Up might be better. But just use whichever mod you have with the best stats. It's the same damage. It's personal preference what you use. You have to try for yourself these both mods and see which one you prefer. Obviously, if you're killing small mobs, Momentum Up will do better because your gun will shoot faster. You can burst them down faster, while Precise Strike is only for weak spots. So I like Momentum Up. We're sticking with Momentum Up. Blitzkrieg for the mask mod. So using Blitzkrieg will give us 10 stacks total. You will get 20% fire rate for reaching the 10 stacks. Now, as you can see, we have Explosive Barrage mod, and it says when in fast gunner state, you get crit rate 10% and weapon damage 10%. It's mostly for crit builds, and of course, we're not using a crit build, so we're sticking with Blitzkrieg. For the gloves, it gives us 15% weapon damage when equipped on the gloves. You might be wondering, why don't we use weak spot damage boost? Because we already get so much weak spot damage boost to the point where weapon damage is left out. And if we go to weak spot memento here, you can see that this build, precision build, has 343 weak spot damage and only 158 weapon damage. If we compare the damage with weapon amplifier versus with weak spot damage boost gloves, the weapon amplifier will do more damage and the weak spot damage boost will do less. Plus, the weapon amplifier mod, when you shoot in the body, you also get increased damage for the wide damage, while if you had weak spot damage boost, you will not get increased damage against that. For the top piece, since it's a weak spot build, you can run any mod you want. It's all personal preference what you choose for PvE. Only one thing mod I want to explain is the Ardent Shield. While the shield is active, you gain 15% damage reduction, and when the shield exceeds 1000 single instances of damage, it will destroy the shield, but it will not hurt your HP. So your health will remain the same while the shield will break. If you're wondering how to obtain the shield, there's a Cradle that is called Deviant Energy Defense, or it will be here called something else. Basically, when you equip this and when you summon a Deviation, you will have a shield above your health bar, and whenever that breaks, that's what the mod does. Pretty much the other mods are self-explanatory. Now for the shoes, we're using Covered Advance. Any build I've used except Lunar, we always want to use Covered Advance. It by far gives you the best bonuses. You just don't have to take damage for 4 seconds and you get 20% damage increase. You can also use Ruthless Reaper, of course, if you're killing small mobs and you're struggling with ammo. Up to you, but for max damage, Covered Advance is the way. Now, the last one, and this is the most important one, is Reload Rampage or Bullet Siphon. So, as you can see here, I left some notes. If you hover your mouse on the cell here, it says Bullet Siphon will give you max 9% weapon damage. And do note, Bullet Siphon cannot stack more than 4% unless you have 10 bullets in the magazine, while Reload Rampage will give you 10% after a kill. I'm going to equip only the mod and nothing else. So now if we go to gear and click C, you can see that we have weapon damage bonus 5%. The 5% is coming from Bullet Siphon because it gives you 5% once you equip it. Every 5 bullets consumed in the mag, you will get additional 4%. You might be thinking that, oh, so we will get a total of 25% because we can just keep shooting with this gun over and over since our bullets never end. Well, the way it's explained is terrible in this mod. Our gun has only 7 bullets, which means we can consume only 5 bullets, which means to get another 4%, we would have to consume extra 3 bullets, which in total that would be 10 bullets. So we will always get only 4% for using this gun. Obviously, if you have 10 bullets in the mag, then you will get 8% plus 5%. That's 13% weapon damage. But since we have only 7 bullets in the mag, we will be getting only 5% and 4%, which in total is 9% weapon damage. And now to do the test, so we have 5% weapon damage bonus, as you can see. I'm gonna shoot enough bullets. Now if we open our inventory, you can see that we have 5% only still. So I don't recommend using Bullet Siphon for this, unless you want a permanent 5% at all times. Maybe you're not killing a small mob or something, then yes, Reload Rampage will be useless if you don't kill a mob. However, if you do kill a mob, Reload Rampage will be better than Bullet Siphon because it will, after killing an enemy, you will refill 2 bullets from the reserves, no more than 50% by the way, and you will get 10% weapon damage until the next reload. So even if you are triggering Fast Gunner, you will keep that 10% until you do that reload. And that's pretty much it for the weak spot build. Now let's go and cover the armor you want to use for the weak spot build. You want to use Bastille Helmet, Dust Mask, Renegade pieces, 4, or you can use 3 Renegade pieces and swap out to whatever you like. The reason why I marked the helmet and the shoes yellow, because you can swap them out to whatever you like. Maybe you want to do more magazine capacity, then replace Renegade to Lone Wolf, 1 piece, which will give you 10% magazine capacity. Or if you want to do 2 Treacherous pieces for the extra 12% weapon damage when your HP is below 70%. Bastal Helmet gives us 10% weapon damage when your HP is above 70%, while Treacherous Pieces gives you 12% weapon damage when HP is below 70%. So it's all up to you what you use. If you want a permanent damage increase, then just stick to 2 Scout Pieces, which will give you HP bonus, and it will give you even 8% weapon damage bonus. But that's only if you wear 2 pieces, but without any conditions below or above any HP. Now for the calibration that you want to use for the gun, Rapid will be the worst, although I do prefer Rapid because the gun just shoots so fast. But just know that if you take Rapid calibration from Memento, the gun will do low damage, but it will shoot fast. The Precision calibration gives us attack 25% and it gives you range 40%. Which kind of turns it into a mini sniper. Far range, you will still do a decent amount of damage and your damage will not fall off. While with Rapid, you get more magazine capacity, but you will lose some attack damage and the gun will just shoot faster. I honestly recommend Precision. Most people like Precision, but maybe some will not like it. Just try out what you like, fire rate or Precision, and just stick with that. Honestly, if you're a new player, just stick with Precision because the gun shoots slow and you have more time to aim at the enemy. Obviously, you want to have 2 weak spot on the substats for the calibration. Now for the food buffs, just go with iced tea drink. There's nothing else you can put on there. That's for the drink. And hot dog food buff. Now since we're talking about hot dog food buff, you will need to use a bingo or you will need to use a wildfire to mark the enemy to do extra damage. You might be wondering which one's better to use, wildfire or bingo. It doesn't really matter. It's all personal preference again. Both do almost the same damage, although for bingo, you just need to swap to the weapon like this, shoot once, and the target's already marked. And you will do extra 16% damage with your vulnerability amplifier if you have one. Of course, if you have the hot dog, you will deal an extra damage to whatever the enemy is. If it's an elite enemy that you marked, then you will deal extra damage to that elite enemy by 20% or 27.6, whatever the hot dog buff gives you, or however amount. Same with bosses, common enemies, and players as well. It does work on players, so if you do mark the player with bingo or wildfire, you will deal extra damage. That's why hot dog is the best food buff for everything, regardless if you're using elemental builds or crit builds or weak spot builds. Hot dog just gives you the most damage. The only downside is you have to mark the enemy in order to utilize this food buff. Now for the hides that you can use, it only matters for the mask, and the mask hide is golden wool. You will get weapon damage and you will just keep swapping between weapon damage and status damage. This is the best one because sometimes you will gain 8% weapon damage and 12% weapon damage, sometimes 11 or 10. The other one that you can use would be Mountain Cowhide. As you can see, it gives you weapon damage 8% when stamina is at least 120. As you can see, my bar is right now around 140. So if I roll, I cannot get that buff anymore until I refresh my stamina. Mountain Cowhide is kind of conditional. If you're always out of stamina, you get no damage boost. That's why I recommend either sticking with Golden Wool, or if you do not have Golden Wool, you can stick with Lunar Wolf Skin, a Grassland Wolf Skin. That would be the worst one out of all. But damage is damage. If you can't get anything else, stick with that. Now for the deviation, you want to use Lone Wolf or Zap Cam, and that's pretty much it. You release the dog and let it hit the boss. Once it does, you just rain bullets on him. By the way, the weak spot build does the highest damage out of all these 3 builds if you shoot in the head. Now if you go to weak spot memento over here, you can see everything that is listed. Every single mod here is calculated for maximum colors, which means it's all 3 golds and just 1 green substat on each mod. On each mod, you have to have weak spot damage, weapon damage, and grade ones, or elites or normal enemies, whatever you prefer. Now, if you're a new player, the first thing you should focus on each of your mod is going to be grade ones. Try to just get a simple mod and just focus on gray ones. Once you get gray ones, you will melt bosses quick. The second thing you need to focus on is try to get weak spot, weapon damage, and gray ones in all one mod. That's how you keep improving your mods until you get the best rolls. On the right side, you can see this is what you need to focus on. Fourth substat doesn't matter. It can be HP, reload speed, magazine capacity, whatever. Just make sure you have the 3 main ones for bossing: weak spot, damage against revens, and weapon damage. The fast gunner suffix is obtained from high risk events or just events in general, or in Chaos Weavers when you kill them. These are keyword mods and you have to obtain them only from events again. Fast gunner suffix they're called, and if you want to focus on weak spot damage, fast gunner state, and damage against gray ones, that is what you want to have on that mod. You don't want to have fast gunner trigger chance on it, by the way. Unless, of course, if you get a god roll with weak spot and weapon damage and fast gunner trigger chance and gray ones, then that's great. But again, these are the main 3 goals you need to have. Now, the main build was for PvE. Now I'm gonna go quickly through the crit builds. The crit builds are not that great. They will do way less damage if you shoot the boss in the head because, well, it's not that reliable. We can only get up till 50% crit rate if you have max calibration. And of course, we will not always have that 50% because sometimes your calibration might be lower and you just might have less crit rate. But basically, crit rate is 50% less effective. If you hit headshots at all times, you're basically doing so much more damage than the crit build. Crit build is more like for bursting small mobs, and if you're not able to hit headshots all the time, that's where it comes useful. But why this Lunar crit build is so special is because you gain so much crit damage when you lower your HP. You will get 60% crit damage when your HP is below 30%. That's why we're using that Lunar mods on the helmet and top piece. We're using Cowboy for the Lunar. We're using Explosive Barrage on the mask. Crit boost on the gloves because we already get so much crit damage from Lunar mods. We don't want to have a crit amplifier, so we can get that extra 5% crit from this mod. Rush Hour because our HP is low. We're using Rush Hour because when you lose HP, you gain more weapon damage. It's better by 14% than Covered Advance. That's why we need to have Rush Hour. Now, Deadshot is almost the same as Bullet Siphon, but except whenever you crit, you gain 5% crit damage over and over. It doesn't matter how many bullets you consume. As long as you crit, you will reach that 45% in no time. And since we are reloading the gun so much, and the bullets basically never end with Cowboy, we're always going to maintain that 45% crit damage. You can look over here. This is the optimal one for highest damage, or just click on gear presets. You will have some more variances. This is just highest damage, and this is more safe approach for treacherous pieces, which will give you a shield every time. If you go in game and look on the 4 pieces, it will generate a shield equal to 20% of the max HP you have when HP is below 40%. Cooldown is 8 seconds. That shield that you get will always keep generating as long as you are below that threshold of. On the screen, as you can see, these are the thresholds for 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, and 30%. And about Lunar mods is, as you can see, even if you're 100% HP, you will still have an increase of weapon damage and crit damage. It just won't be max, like 30% or 12%. That's why you need to go over this threshold, 30% below. Once you get that threshold, your Lunar mods will give you the max damage, 12% and 30%, which in total will be 24% weapon damage and 60% crit damage. Up to you what you use here. You can swap the last boots with Heavy Duty or Lone Wolf or Renegade. Renegade for reload speed, Lone Wolf for more mag, Heavy Duty for more HP. Now, HP does matter for the crit high-risk build, the Lunar build, because if you focus all your 7 substats on HP in your gun and 6 armor pieces, you will be so tanky that whenever the mobs will break your shield, you will have enough time to generate the shield again. So basically you will almost never die because you just have so much HP. Now, of course, that will be a little bit hard to build. Imagine you need crit damage, weapon damage, damage gun, gray ones, and then you need fast gunner, crit damage, suffix, weapon damage, and gray ones, and then max HP. The max you can get is, well, green colored max HP. So, of course, if you get 3 golds and god rolls. But yeah, that would be the best substats for this build. And lastly, this is the safe crit build. It's more for beginners. I wouldn't really use this though. It's not that good. At this point, just stick to the weak spot build. Unless you want to kill mobs that don't have a weak spot and take forever to kill, then yes, you can use this build. Crit one. But do you really want to farm mods for that safe crit build? I wouldn't really recommend this. This is more like, again, if you don't have Lunar mods, stick to this build right here. 4 Lone Wolf pieces, Dust Mask, and Bastel Helmet. And yes, by the way, we do use Dust Mask for every single preset because Dust Mask, once you trigger Fast Gunner, you just get 1 bullet back, but it's 70% chance. And after that, you also get 20% attack, only for that 1 bullet. It's pretty insane. It even got a buff, so it's even better than the Osis Mask. So make sure to use Dust Mask. And if you're always wondering what substats you need to focus, just click on the sheet here, Weakspot MEMENTO or Treacherous, whatever you're building, and just look at the numbers over here. Everything is listed below each mod. So for example, Blitzkrieg, it gives us 12% weak spot damage, 8% weapon damage, and it's marked orange because it's a fast gunner suffix. These pink ones are marked as precision mods. That's hence why it's this color over here and orange over here. And these are basically multipliers of each damage bonus, weapon damage, weak spot damage. And if you ever wanted to calculate your damage, Basically, let's say this 5% is our attack. Let's just put it as 50. This is your base damage of the gun that does with no multipliers or anything. So you just do 2000 multiplied by brackets 1 plus 50 divided by 100, close the brackets, and that will be your final damage, 3000. Of course, then you take that 3000, and if you want to add a crit, our crit is 0 now. Let's put something in the crit. Let's say we have 100% crit. Then you just multiply that. It's going to be 3000. And then you just add it up, because crit damage is additive to your damage and it's not multiplicative. Same goes for weak spot. And if we had, let's say, 200 weak spot, then you would do the same thing. You take the multiplied damages from the attack multiplier right here that we had before. As you can see, it was 3000 over here. You take that 3000. Weak spot, we have 200%. So you just multiply 3000 with 200 and we will have 6000. Then you add that 3000. That's our base damage before, which was this. You add the weak spot, which will be 9000. And you will add the crit damage, which will be 12,000. In total, 12,000. Well, that's how damages work in this game. It's pretty straightforward. Mostly everything is multiplicative. Only crit damage and weak spot is additive to the base damage. Because, I mean, if weak spot and crit damage was multiplicative, that would be insanely broken. Now for the Cradle perks that you want to focus, you need Anti-Coherence, Anti-Phase, Rapid Aid, Tactical Combo, TV and Energy Defense, Steady Hand, Marked Strike, Fast Pursuit, and of course, if you use Bounty Hunter, then remove Rapid Aid and put Bounty Hunter. But Bounty Hunter, make sure you use Wildfire for that, because if you use Bingo, Bingo is very hard to mark enemies because it's only one-time thing. And with Wildfire, you have more ammo. You can spam shoot the gun, so if you mark multiple times the enemy, you will keep gaining weapon damage bonus up till 5 stacks. Well, thank you all for watching this video. I'm very grateful for all the likes and comments and all the support you guys give me. As always, I will see you guys in the next one. Make sure to join my Discord if you're not in my Discord. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like as well. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care and peace out.